Subscribe, like, comment and share to support the channel. Thank you for the support. A few days later, the missing child's forest that looks like a normal forest after it was cleared, a wolf makes a sudden appearance, but our boy is prepared. He lets out a single slash that kills the wolf in one hit. A window appears to notify him that he has stolen a very small amount of the gray wolf's life force. He had also obtained 2 hours of life. Nox decides to take a look around while wondering if he had killed all the wolves in this area, since he gained 2 hours of life with a single hunt. This could be considered quite a successful hunt. Jitri appears with a bottle of water, informing Nox that it has been an hour since he started the hunt, which made her wonder if he was tired. Hearing that news made Nox depressed. He knew that since he didn't activate the hour of the genius skill, it took a long time to hunt. That means he had only earned an hour. He knew the calculation wouldn't balance out nicely, but this is way too off. It's not like he can be killing monsters every single hour. The biggest concern, however, would be that there are a limited number of monsters, since he had been hunting for the last few days. Nox has killed most of the monsters. At this rate, his plan of having a great life is in danger of completely falling apart. Nox lets out a deep sigh and stated that not having many monsters in this vicinity nowadays was also a big problem. Jitri couldn't believe that Nox had thinking that no monsters were a problem. She noted that if others were to hear what he just said, they would have thought of him as being strange, but Nox soon notices something. He turns to look at the sun and noticed that it was already setting. Since it couldn't be helped, he informs them that they should return to the mansion for today. Jitri then asks if she should prepare warm bath water for him as she would prepare it at a comfortable temperature. Nox thought that her actions were expected of a support genius, so he tells her that he wanted to bathe before dinner in order for her to make sure that the timing was correct. Jitri happily agrees to his request. Rona cuts in and tells Nox to not forget about her as she was sure to clean his room. Nox was confused but eventually tells her to do whatever she wants. Rona immediately gathers all of their stuff while Jitri laughs over her reaction. Nox then calls Jitri to the side by herself. He looks down but informs her that he had a question for her. Jitri started to grab onto the towel tightly. He looks at her and then asks about who she served. This question causes her to be stunned. Nox recalled her traits where one of them was the support genius, but he knew that no matter how beautiful or great a sword is, if he couldn't use it, then he won't hesitate to throw it away. Jitri continued to remain silent and her gaze was faced away from Nox after hearing his question. Nox understood what her reaction meant and told her that that was her answer. Jitri was scared as she told Nox that she hadn't said anything yet though, but Nox knew about what she wanted to say. He tells her not to worry as he wouldn't intend to interrogate her any further. Nox was instead thankful towards her as Jitri didn't lie to him. He then tells her that no matter who she served, he'll think of her as one of his own. A curtain of fear soon fell upon her after hearing those words from Nox. He walks past her while continuing to say that if she needed to, then she could make use of him as well, which was all he wanted to say. Jitri simply stared at his back as he walked off. While Nox thought that as compared to having mutual trust, wouldn't it be sufficient for them to just be making use of each other, because that was the kind of relationship they had with one another after all. The scene changes to the home of Nox. Rona is laying in bed asking Jitri if she felt that Nox was just being too much. Rona thought about how Nox would say certain things like, "If you don't run together with me, what fun would it be for me to train?" She curses him over the fact that he did it to her every time they trained. She then asked Jitri if she thinks that he was too much as well. Jitri looks at her and agrees with what she said with a smile on her face. As she gazes out the window, she felt that the rumors that Nox was a changed person was real, as she had heard them countless times from when she was in the Lovilia family, but she had initially thought that the rumors were probably fabricated, since it's really rare for someone to change this much. But she recalled that the rumors had said that he had defeated the twins in one go and obtained the right to attend the academy, and he's also someone who's solidifying his standing within the family, which was totally different from Jitri, who's fallen all the way down despite being a legitimate successor. But what pains her the most was what Nox said to her today. She recalls the moment when he told her to make use of him as well. She continued to think deeply about what he meant by that as the night went on. Shortly after, a groundless rumor started to spread around within the Reinharber family. The rumor stated that Jitri was expelled from her family, and now no longer deserved to be a mate of the Reinharber family. A letter was written with the words, "Jitri de Lovilia, listen up, you, the incompetent family head, who sold out your family will be held accountable for your sins. You have been stripped of any rights that you have as a direct line descendant." After reading the letter, Jitri knew that she won't be able to stay within the Reinharber family for long as well, which was to be expected as the Reinharber family was one of the top dark families after all. Even though she was just being used as a maid for a good-for-nothing son, she was now a commoner who had lost her family and lost the right to serve Nox. She also knew that soon she'll be cut off, and will be serving someone new soon, but she decides to show a bright smile as she entered the room while greeting everyone hello. Seeing their reaction to her presence made Jitri realize that they had probably heard about the rumors. She looked down with a sad expression as she was already used to these looks of disdain, but a familiar voice calls out to her. Rona appears by her side and tells her that she had been looking everywhere for her. Jitri couldn't believe this and wondered if Rona didn't know about the rumors, but she still held onto her hand. Seeing this action made Jitri think if Rona was just messing with her or that she really thought of her as a friend, but whatever it was, Jitri was sure that Rona was doing something foolish right now. She continued to think that Rona, her and Nox were all just foolish things. Nox was seen sitting in his room thinking that the end is imminent, not just for Jitri. Theo probably received the letter as well. All the crimes that were framed upon Jitri's father, Nox knew that they were all fabricated, but he also knew that he was unable to help her, because there was no way to know what butterfly effect would be caused just by him helping her survive. The next day, wolves continued to be slain. Nox had resumed his hunt of wolves in order to sustain his own life force, but he held a cold look in his eyes. Rona talked about how Nox looks a little harsh today. She talked to Jitri about how he used to be a little more merciful in the past, but she noticed that he seemed a little off today. Jitri looks at her and wondered what she meant by that. She then thought about how Nox's current state was making her feel uneasy. With his sword covered in blood, Nox swings it down to get rid of it. Looking around while thinking that it should be about time it appears, he wonders if it was not going to come out today as well. In the missing child's forest, a monster that appears randomly when there's only about 20% of the monsters left, the hidden boss monster. Nox was thinking of killing it because he thought it would help him in getting his stats increased, but he guessed that it was not going to work. But a rustling noise from the bushes catches his attention. Something extremely quick like the flash went past his face as he wonders what it was. The speedster smacks Nox, but he manages to block it while noting that its speed was on a totally different level. But this brings a smile to his face as he guessed that this was what a hidden boss was like. The speedster was revealed to be the elite King Wasp. Nox was annoyed because this was a troublesome one, but it was not at a level that he couldn't kill. But Jitri calls out to him in a hurry as Nox turns to see her. Jitri stood in front of the elite King Wasp's attack, shielding Nox from its horror, but all Nox could think of was that even without Jitri's help, that was an attack he could either dodge or block. He wondered why she had saved him. He continued to wonder about how many people would be able to run towards a monster that suddenly appeared. Nox made sure to make use of this as well for the sake of saving her, but his face wore a different feeling as he grinds his teeth in anger. He then activates his skill, the Hour of the Genius. A flashback is seen where a young Jitri is crying over her injured knee. A voice calls out to her and wonders why their dear Jitri was always falling down. Another voice agrees and notes that there has never been a day that her wounds on her knee are completely healed. That's what her parents always told her, that her wounds were never completely healed. But Jitri knew that it doesn't simply apply to only her knee wounds, but also her heart wounds. She wonders if they were prophesying over her previously. She then recalls the question of who do you serve from Nox the day before. Jitri continued to think deeply about who she serves. A memory of her father came into her mind, along with the memories of her uncle killing her father and telling her that the family was now his. Her mind then went on to Nox's father while thinking about who she serves. The question that Nox asks her repeated in her head along with his other words. We return to the present where Nox and Rona are calling out to Jitri. Two windows appear to tell Nox that he had defeated the monster and will be given special rewards. Nox looks at her with a worried expression on his face as he tells Jitri to hang in there for a while. He continues to tell her that it was all over now and that he'll take her back. Rona reminds him that they needed to head back to the mansion quickly. Lies is what Jitri thought as she looked at Nox. She wonders if that was the expression of someone who's just trying to make use of her would look like. Jitri tried to open her mouth to speak but couldn't, making her wonder why. Why does she feel a slight tremble as her vision of Nox started to blue, as well as anger in his voice? Tears flow down her eyes as she closes them. Theo reads a letter in his hand and spoke out that it is indeed troubling. Rodwell informs Theo that based on their investigation, the contents of the letter are true. The Lovelia family has decided to completely cut off Miss Jitri. Theo thought about the reason he brought Jitri here in the first. It was for the sake of taking over the Lovelia family, since they have lost their previous head of the house, and are in an unstable state, he'd thought that this would be the perfect chance to take over them. For example, if the situation within the family is so unstable that the successor's position in the family would be shaky, with the involvement of Reinharber, they should be able to bring them into submission somehow. But what if Jitri is expelled from the family, before any plans can even take place? Theo talks about how it couldn't be helped and asked Rodwell about what he thinks they should do with Jitri. Rodwell replies that while it's regretful, if they place a maid that doesn't belong to any family beside Nox, they'll be looked down upon within Eldian Academy. Rodwell then tells Theo that they ought to deal with this quietly on their end. Theo replies that he had similar thoughts as well. "Sir," shouted someone as the door to the room is opened. Rodwell turns around to ask why he was barging in without permission, making the servant apologize. He then informs Theo that Nox was seen carrying back a maid who had been injured during his hunt. He continues to say that the maid has been poisoned and was in a very critical state. Nox had also used a very expensive antidote without permission, which was why the servant was here to report that to Theo. Rodwell questioned the servant on whether Nox had used the Mandrix purifying potion. The servant nervously says yes. Rodwell shakes his head in disbelief as it was a really expensive potion, while Theo thought that Nox had grown attached to the maid so quickly, and he knew that no one knows what result could come out of personal feelings like that. A blurry vision of Rona is seen as she calls out to Jitri, asking her if she was awake. Rona cried tears of joy as Jitri opens her eyes. She wondered what had happened and if Nox was safe. She recalled the memory of throwing herself to block the wasp attack, making her question herself on why she did that. Rona explains to her that Nox had used an antidote on her. She tried to say its name but couldn't remember it. She continues to explain that he used the antidote that was supposed to be really good. He had totally ignored the doctor's refusal to use it and asked him to use it on you unless he wanted to die. Rona was glad to see that the good-for-nothing side of him was still around. Hearing the word Mandric made Jitri wonder why he would do that for her. Her hand trembles as she thought that Nox simply wanted to make use of her. As Jitri got up, Rona tells her that she needed to get some more rest, but Jitri wanted to know where Nox was. Rona thought about it and remembered that he had went to look for the Chamberlain and that he asked her to update him once Jitri was awake. Rona then leaves the room to update Nox, but before she left she tells Jitri to make sure to get plenty of rest. Jitri didn't get any rest but instead went to grab her suitcase. She began to pack her stuff knowing that she shouldn't be here, but the truth was that she knew that she didn't deserve to be anywhere. With a saddened expression on her face, Jitri took out her necklace and removed her precious photo of her parents, placing it alongside a letter where she tells Nox that she knew about how he used a potion for her, and that she thinks that the pendant would be able to pay for the cost of that with some excess money. She then thanks Nox for saving her life. With sad look on her face, Jitri had prepared herself with her belongings to leave, but as she began to leave a voice calls out to her, asking her where she thought she was going right now. Nox appears in front of her, with a serious look on his face. He repeats his question, "Where are you going?" Thanks for watching the latest part from the voice of Manhwa. Subscribe for more content and don't forget to comment below what you want to see in the future. Like and share for more.